Ladies and gentlemen, Caravan fans, welcome to the third episode of Built on Dante, a Mount Carmel podcast. Christos, how we doing, man?
Doing great. Yeah, just finished the A-push exam. Feeling pretty good about that. And now we're rolling with Coach Segroves here.
Yep.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you? I think it's afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's afternoon, right?
Yep.
Yeah, very good.
Just hit noon. It's the season of AP tests, and while that means there's a lot of studying, it also means we're wrapping up here soon. We've got just a few weeks left, and then we're going off into the summer. Sports are wrapping up, and this is really a great time of the year to have these weekly updates because there's just so much going on. And I think we might as well just jump right into it. Next Tuesday, we've got graduation. And I know, Coach, this kind of is close to home for you because this was kind of the year for the basketball program as far as seniors go. There's a lot of great, talented kids on there. So how do you feel now that guys like Angelo Cheravino and Trey Marks, they're headed off, the program is changing? It's a little bittersweet, right? You get to see your guys graduate on Tuesday, so what's that like?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see those guys move on. But, Matt, just like when it's your turn and Christo's turn, as someone, I'm not in the classroom, but I'm in education, right, as an athletic director at a high school, it's great to see those young men move on because I know that guys like Christian Yurimovich, Derek Edwards, Anthony Hayes, Lee Marks, and Angelo Cheravino, they have great careers ahead of them. They're all going off to school. Some are going to continue to play basketball, some at an extremely high level, some in the middle, some at a lower level, but still some are playing, some are not. It just gives me a lot of pride as a coach to see these guys move on and to take on the next chapter of their life. So will it be tough to see them go? Would I like to have them all back? Yes, but, we had a pretty good player here 2 years ago, DeAndre Craig. I'd like to have him back too, but, now he's finishing up his freshman year in college. So there's so many guys down the line I could say, gosh, I'd love to have him back, but I'm also really excited and proud for these 5 seniors to move on and do great things outside of Mount Carmel.
Yeah, I've heard great things about DeAndre, especially through Christos. He keeps up with that a lot more than I do, but, I've heard he's done great things, and I can't wait to see Angelo, of course, because he's playing Big Ten ball, but also the other guys too, right? They kind of took that upon themselves to they knew they wanted to go play in college. They worked hard to get some offers, and Christos, you were teammates with him, right? So now what's that like for you? Because that's got to be a bittersweet feeling for you too, right? You were backups to these guys, and now you're going to have a chance next year to get some more playing time now that they're gone. But, what's it like to see these guys graduate next week?
It's awesome. I'll keep up with them for a long time. It's awesome to see what they're going to be doing in college, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for those guys, just like working alongside them, kind of being a mentor, a role model, right? They're great teammates, great players, and then great people as well, which I think it's just it was great, especially, we had our banquet a few weeks ago, and it was kind of nice just to see like some of the guys kind of have their final send-off from the basketball program and reflect on their time there, and hopefully to many more times together, as we graduate Mount Carmel, but we're a part of this forever now, so it'll be awesome keeping up with them as time goes on.
Right. Yeah, talk about final send-offs, though. This week we had our last signing day, and that's probably like the last big event for your first year as the athletic director. So what was that like how many kids signed? Do you know?
We had 15 this past
15?
week.
Okay.
6 different sports were represented, and Matt, that's a really good question. As an athletic director, again, I'll probably use this word throughout the podcast, but, you're extremely proud of these young men, and to see some of the schools, big and small, where they're going to. We even have, an appointment at one of the academies at West Point with Damian Resendez going there, and then Alonzo Manning Jr. going to the Naval Academy to play football and one to wrestle. It just gives you a huge sense of pride. I listened to our top 20 today, which had nothing to do with athletics, right? But our top 20 students and when they're going, and just the great work that you guys are doing, including you and your partner, Mr. Demas here, the hard work that goes in at Mount Carmel is just incredible. And on days like today, in days like last week when we had our athletic signing day, days today, top 20 signing day, it just gives you, as an employee and as someone who's, older, just a sense of pride and just a tip of the hat to the accomplishments that you guys are accomplishing each and every day here at Mount Carmel and beyond.
I mean, talk about accomplishments, though. I remember when we heard last year that you were going to take on this role as AD, a lot of people were like, he's really going to be the head basketball coach of, this great program and also be the AD at the same time. So, reflecting on this year, personally, was it difficult? I mean, yeah, I know that's probably a pretty easy question to answer. Of course it was difficult because you guys went down state in basketball, and then this was one of the most chaotic and busy years as far as Mount Carmel sports goes. A ton of teams were going to state championships. A ton of teams were playing in the playoffs. So what was it like, just it was chaos, honestly, this year. Controlled chaos, I should say.
Yeah, I would say that it was a lot, but it was something that I knew of, and not to bore you, but I had talked to my wife Bridget about applying for this job and going for it full steam ahead. We talked maybe a minimum of 10 times about this, right? I have 5 sons, a sophomore here at Mount Carmel. Next year I'll have a junior and a freshman, with 3 little ones, coming behind them. So it's busy in our household, but you know what? It's busy in everyone's household.
Right.
Life is busy for everybody in the country and in the world, right? And your parents are doing it, and my parents did it, my grandparents did it. So, you just, pull up your socks and be a big boy and get it done. But what I'll say is that football at Mount Carmel, it's a beast.
Yeah.
It's a beast. But I believe that's one of the reasons why we're great. We're not good here. We're great. And I believe that's one of the reasons why is because there's so much that goes into it. I'm just happy to say that I had a great mentor in Mr. LeCount, Dan LeCount, who was our former AD and who's now chose, his own decision to go into the counseling department. I had him, about 100 steps away from my office to go down and, kind of ask him for any help. And then again, if I didn't have your aunt, right, if I didn't have Mrs. Mann, maybe one of the best hires at our school in the past 30 years, Mary Mann, who is the mother of soon-to-be senior Marty and soon-to-be junior Garrett and soon-to-be freshman Danny.
Yep.
And then they have a daughter, Maggie, at home as well. If we didn't have Mrs. Mann here, I would have drowned. Mm-hmm. She was amazing. She came in early. She stayed late. They say this, and I say this a lot with my wife, behind every good man's a great woman.
Yep.
And she's a great woman, a great wife, a great mom, and she's a great coworker. She really has helped our athletic department move in the direction that we needed to. And again, this being the first year, so many things were new to me. So her and I actually figured things out together with the help of others like Mr. LeCount. But again, a tip of the cap to Mrs. Mann, Mary Mann, for helping us get to this point. And now, with having almost a year under our belt, now we can start to implement some of the procedures that we want, right? I respected and saw everything that Mr. LeCount did. I actually worked under Coach Frank Lenti, who was the AD before him. So I learned from both of them from the sidelines and watching. But now that this is mine, that I'm our athletic director, now I can start to implement things like standard operating procedures, right? Mm-hmm. So we've started, with different documents on how we're going to do things, whether it be bowling or tennis, lacrosse, sailing, football, and we're going to try to mirror these things so that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, right? We can't have, and we don't, but I'm just saying we can't have baseball go in one direction and basketball go in the other. Although they're 2 different sports, a lot of things have to mirror one another. How do we do tryouts, right? How do we conduct fees? How do we communicate fees? Do we have a banquet, right? How do we celebrate the year end? In communication with parents. There's so many things that go into running an athletic program. It's not just, one team. Outside of the players, there are parents. Outside of the parents, there are administrators. Outside of the administrators, there's teachers. Outside of the teachers, there's other students, right? There's so much communication that needs to go on, and we need to get better at that. And we're in the process of doing that right now. I'll finish on this and then let you guys continue on, but a smart man told me that when you take over a position, unless there is a drastic need, you don't make changes in the first year. You sit back, you watch, you manage, right? You know what I mean? You try to keep things where they need to be. Help baseball, help lacrosse, right? Help swimming, help water polo. Don't make any changes. But now that we've had a year under our belt, now that we can start to implement some of these changes that we feel are needed at Mount Carmel for us to continue to be the best of the best.
That's very informative. Yeah, I love it though. I love it the energy though.
Thank you.
Because it's just it's such an important time for Mount Carmel sports. The direction we're heading, because right, we had many teams go to state championships this year, but we also had many teams that might not have even had a program or might not have even had a team. You know, they really had to struggle to find kids. And to hear the AD say, we're trying to get everybody to go in that direction of, hey, let's get some teams going down to state, that's perfect to hear. But about what you said with beyond the teacher, beyond the student, all that, I think that's something that Christos can definitely agree with me here. We talk about it a little bit. That's such an overlooked part of high school sports, is just how impactful it is and how like wide of a range it has on everybody. Like, it affects everybody at the school, it affects everybody at home, and things just kind of have to align to get a team down to state. And you know, the basketball team was able to do it. Football's been able to do it 2 years, hopefully 3 next year. Right, we're looking to go down this fall. So, man, it ain't easy to win, and the athletic department has to be behind that to influence these teams and help them out. Yeah. And I love the position we're in right now. My aunt, like you said, is working down there. I just wanted to, you know, I'm around them a lot, obviously. Marty, Garrett, and Danny are my cousins. And, you know, Marty was not all in on Mount Carmel.
I've got a great story about him, too.
Yeah. Marty was not all in on Mount Carmel. His family was not really a Mount Carmel family. My Uncle Dan went to Leo, like a couple guys from Beverly have, you know, or who live in Beverly now have. So I remember asking Marty if he wanted to go to the honors. Chris, you remember
honors open house. I remember that in the spring.
The honors open house, and I kind of did it like, oh, Marty, he'll probably end up going somewhere else, you know. But I didn't really think he'd come here. The Mans love Mount Carmel so much. Like, if you go over to their house now, there's just Mount Carmel stuff plastered all over the place. So they love this school 100%. And I think Danny was actually kind of the first one that like started wearing Mount Carmel hoodies and stuff, and you know, just kind of repping the MC. And to be the youngest one doing that, like, I love that. So. But yeah, there's going to be 3 Man brothers here soon. So
I was with your Uncle Dan over the weekend. You know, your cousin Danny and my son Seamus, they're both 8th graders. They're both going to be coming to Mount Carmel next year, and they played in a baseball tournament in Wisconsin. And it reminds me of a story when your older cousin Marty, right, Danny's oldest brother, was a little guy, and I saw him at Monroe Park. And we were there. We had Little League games, and I knew your Uncle Dan. Didn't know all the boys that well yet. This was, you know, many, many years ago, probably 10 years ago, maybe 8, I don't know. But I was messing around with him, and I was opening up my hatch or my trunk of my car, and I said, hey, Dan. He goes, hey, Phil, how are you? You know, your Uncle Dan, and Marty was there. I'm like, hey, Marty, how about a Carmel T-shirt? I was just joking with him. He goes, I hate Mount Carmel. And your Uncle Dan, you know, big, tough guy, but he's a really nice, you know, nice guy and very polite. He's like, Marty, don't say that to Coach Segroves. And he's like, Phil, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, don't worry, Dan. Someday he'll love Mount Carmel. And, you know, fast forward, you know, he was probably in 3rd or 4th grade then. Fast forward a couple years, and next thing you know, Marty Mann's here doing everything under the sun. Yeah. And so is, you know, his brother Garrett, and soon to be, you know, his brother Dan next year too. So, yeah, we love the Manns. They're great people, great Southside family, and just an unbelievable addition to Mount Carmel High School.
And I mean, like Christos and I, growing up, we definitely come from Mount Carmel families. I mean, Christos, your dad works here. Your dad, you know, but Marty's story is a little bit different, and that's what makes it great. You know, he didn't come from people that came here. Actually, I think Marty and I, it would be his mom's side, my dad's side. We are the first cousins to ever go here, I think, from that side of the family. I think. I'm going to have to check later, probably with my grandma. But
well, you guys are the smartest in the family.
Right.
That's why. It works out perfectly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, this is definitely a time of the year that we reflect on things like that a lot. Graduation is Tuesday. So that'll be live streamed by the Caravan Broadcast Network. We're going to have that on YouTube for you guys. It's the end of your first year as the AD. These senior basketball players are leaving, so it's a great time to reflect. It's a great time to have like those award ceremonies. Christos, I think you won like all of the awards, so you know, good job there. But yeah, I love stories like that though with Marty, where people weren't all in, they weren't 100% loving it, and for even them to say they hate it.
I hate
And
Mount
yeah.
Carmel, he said, but he was
Yeah.
just a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
So
fun story.
for
That
them
is funny.
for them to end up here now, it's great. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, taking a look, so, right, you didn't go to Mount Carmel. You went to Bogan. But, when people think of Mount Carmel, I'm sure, like, you're one of the names or one of the faces that people, they think of Mount Carmel, they think of Coach Segroves. You've been here for
27 years.
27 years.
Yep.
So you want to talk a little bit about why you came to Mount Carmel?
Yeah, Christos, thanks
Yeah.
for asking. I think it's a great story. You're right. I'm a 1987 graduate of Bogan High School. And, I had two of my best friends in high school were Carmel grads, John Sawicki and Terry Ward. We hung out together in high school, and our group of guys, we had guys from Marist, guys from Lawrence, guys from Rice, two guys from Carmel, and then me, the guy from Bogan.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew girls from Queen of Peace High School, and I think that's how we got together and kind of merged as a group. I guess they let me in their group. Most of the guys were from St. Linus, which was kind of funny. But, I did have, buddies growing up that went to Mount Carmel. That being said, fast forward a couple years, I'm coaching at Bogan High School in my early 20s, and I grew up in St. Denis Parish by Bogan, and I was playing Holy Name softball. We had a huge Holy Name softball league in a 1981 grad by the name of Brian Collins, a friend of mine. I've known him since I was little. We're 6 years different, right? He's 6 years older than me. And he knew that I was working at the Mercantile Exchange. The markets closed early, and that I was coaching at Bogan. And we're playing softball, and he goes, hey, I heard you're coaching at Bogan. I said, yeah, it's going great. I love it. And Bogan was really chugging along then. We actually lost to Mount Carmel in the prep ball and football. But at one point, I was coaching football, basketball, and baseball there. I really loved it. I was young, single, and again, working, in my work schedule allowed me to coach in the afternoon. And he said, hey, would you like to come to Mount Carmel? And I looked, and I'm like, wow, I knew Carmel, sports powerhouse, and a lot of tradition. And my buddies, again, like I said, John Sawicki and Terry Ward played here. They were great football players in the late 80s with Coach Nolan. And I said, yeah, I'd be honored. So he said, we got a sophomore assistant coach basketball, and we have a head freshman coach. And in 1 second, I said, I'll take the head freshman coach, because I had been an assistant at Bogan. And, I'd been coaching, I think, 4 years at the time, still very young in my early 20s. And, I jumped at the chance. My first year here, we were 22-1. The team was unbelievable. What I didn't realize is that my first year, I had 4 future Division I players on my team, and then I had 1 Division I football player on the team. So 5 Division I athletes on, a team of 12 kids.
Wow, yeah.
It was pretty amazing. Unfortunately, not all the guys stuck around at Mount Carmel, but the ones who have, I've kept an incredibly strong bond with that first team. We went undefeated in the Catholic League. We lost 1 game to Morgan Park at Christmas, and it was my fault. At the end of the game, we lost the game. But Morgan Park had a great freshman team, and that would have been way back in the winter of 1996. Was my first year, and I actually just saw, the first kid that I ever coached at Mount Carmel. On that team, Dan Daly. He has 4 boys now, lives in Palos, and his little son's, his oldest son is a 7th grader, Danny as well, and he shadowed the other day. So that's really cool. Another thing is that the Cozies who go to Mount Carmel, right? Their dad was on that team as well, and they're already here now. So it's kind of funny. I don't feel that old. I know I look different from 1996, but it's pretty wild to see now that I'm coaching, right? Players that I coached, I'm coaching their sons here at Mount Carmel, and it's a great sense of pride to see Mount Carmel men send their sons to Mount Carmel. It's pretty cool. So that's how I got started back in '96 with Brian Collins, who asked me to come aboard, and it's been love ever since. I'll never be able to give back to Mount Carmel what Mount Carmel has given me. Some people say, oh, you work here, you spend so many hours, and you did this, and you've been here 12 days in a row. A lot of people are here 12 days in a row, but it's just what I'm getting at is that great institution, great place. I love it like you two do, and I'll never be able to give the school back what it's given to me.
That's a pretty great story for coming here. Every year they have those Frank Kishka media guides, those media books for the football season, and I always take a glance at that freshman page where it shows the record of every year, and it has the head coach.
Yeah.
And I don't know the exact number of how many times we've gone undefeated, but I know that each year it's bolded 9-0 or however many games there were. And I'll say there's a lot of text on there that's bolded. I mean, the tradition of that freshman team is incredible. Some of these guys, they're not even developed yet, right? They're definitely not ready to go to
Mhm.
college. They've got a few years ahead of them on varsity, but yeah, that freshman team just dominates, and I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I coach freshman football as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coach baseball or even coach wrestling one year. But I was the head freshman football coach for 17 years, and I believe we won outright or won a share of the championship 15 of the 17 years. And it's about the great kids that I had the chance to coach and the lessons that I learned from Frank Lenti, Dave Lenti, Mark Antonetti, right, and guys like that, helped me in regards to building that next group of young men. Freshman sports are very important here, right?
Yeah.
Just like your freshman year is, right? It's you start to build that foundation, right? And if you build a strong foundation, it's not going to crack. So it's really important as a freshman, say academically, you've got to start out really well as a freshman. Yeah. It's hard to climb out of that hole if you don't do well your freshman year academically. Kind of the same thing in sports. You want to start strong in sports when you're here at Mount Carmel or clubs, activities, right? And then I'm not going to say you can coast after that, but you've kind of got an idea of what direction that you want to go to academically, socially, spiritually, any of those things here at Mount Carmel. So that freshman coach or that freshman year is a really important deal.
I mean, Christos and I can definitely remember Coach Messino our freshman year. that was just such a. I'll never forget that season.
Okay.
Yeah. I know you still kind of keep in contact with him a little bit.
He's actually gonna get me a video for the presidential campaign.
Really?
So yeah, I think he's gonna send in something, which would be really funny. But
remember, he used to hoop with you guys.
Yeah,
he would be out there hooping,
he'd
sweating.
Be shooting.
Yep. He can shoot.
He
Coach
could light
Messino
it up.
Could shoot.
Yeah. I mean that was just such a memorable year for sure. Just freshman basketball, you kind of think for some schools, in multiple ways it might just kind of be shoved off, like it's all about the varsity team. But I definitely felt like when we were on that freshman team, like we worked hard. Like that was the practices were tough, and it was definitely they were teaching us more than basketball, though. I'll say that Coach Messino went above and beyond, and I know he's not here anymore, but yeah,
right.
Those freshman coaches were great.
Matt, something I say to everyone on our basketball staff, and I will continue to implement this throughout of all of athletics, is the number one thing that we should be teaching is fun. I know that there's obviously discipline and things like that need to go along with that, right? And that's what helps make, a lot of young men and young women successful is the lessons that they learn through athletics. But it's so important to make sure they're having fun. That's the first thing, because when you stop having fun playing sports, you know what? It's time to stop.
Right.
It's time to give it up, and you know what? I'm going to go on to something else, or my run was done. I only played in junior college, but, I knew when football was over. I knew that that's it. I'm done, not having fun anymore. And it's, like I said, a very important piece. It's hard to manage it as a coach because a lot of young men equate fun with playing time. And
right.
You know what? Not everybody's going to play as much as the other guys. So it wears on you as a coach. You think about these things, because if you don't care about these players, which I know our coaches do, then you shouldn't be coaching. So when you know and you've built a relationship with a young man and you care about him and he's not playing as much as he wants to play, it's tough.
Yeah.
But some people look at what's the most important thing? Wins and losses. So you've really got to balance that as a coach. And as an athletic director, I want to continue to help. I don't want to say educate, our coaches, but it would help them understand the importance of how this role as a mentor, as a coach, athletics, how that plays into a young man's life here at Mount Carmel.
Yeah, and I want to add on about that with fun. When you guys had your run down to state, it was before every game. I think it was Drew. You guys would huddle up, and Drew would get in the middle, and he'd start dancing around or something. And that energy that the team had, that's awesome, right? That's all you want. I couldn't imagine our basketball team just going out there with straight faces and just not having fun at all. Like, no, those guys. Whenever Angelo dunked it, the bench would go wild. So that season was fun.
You know what you don't realize as a coach? You don't realize how much fun everyone's having. Like what you just said. I didn't know that. We're out there coaching and trying to make sure that we're crossing T's and dotting I's. One thing I'll tell you about Drew, his nickname is Nude, N-O-O-D, not N-U-D-E, N-O-O-D. Christo, why do we call him Nude?
Noodles. He only eats noodles. Nothing else.
He only
Yep.
eats noodles. I mean, he's a very finicky eater. So when we would be on the road, whether it be a tournament, Christmas tournament, Thanksgiving tournament, going downstate, we'd always try and find a place where Drew could eat. Because N-O-O-D, he's only eating noodles. Maybe he'd eat nuggets. He might eat nuggets, too.
I think he would.
He might eat nuggets, but, he's not having Jimmy John's. He's not having Culver's, places that you usually stop as a team, right, to get something quick to eat. So we had to take care of him. But Drew was a big part of our success in many ways. Love him. He's funny.
Yeah, that's the part I love most about that state run is you take away any one of those guys and you guys are not in the state championship. That's what I love about it the most. I look at every single I'll put it this way. When Marty Mann and I were making that slideshow for the pregame show the day of the state championship, we kind of realized, like, wow, like every single kid on here is not only a good basketball player, but they've had one or two or maybe even more just great moments throughout the season that's helped the team even get here. So,
do you remember super sectional game?
Yeah.
St. Pat's, right? Pretty intense game, and then we blow it out at the end, and the guys just dominated and toward the end of the fourth quarter, even though they had the ball at the end. We played really well in the fourth, and obviously the overtime, we win the game by 10 points. I did watch the film a bunch, to kind of enjoy it, but to also see some things that we need to correct, right? Also anticipating maybe seeing St. Pat's again. They play a crazy 1-3-1 defense. I mean, it's stingy, not crazy, but it's a stingy defense. And how are we going to be more successful should we face them again? The one thing, guys, do you remember Angelo's dunk at the end of the game?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, 5 seconds left, and he slams the dunk to kind of put the exclamation point on everything. I watched that over and over again, and I did not watch his dunk. Do you know what I watched? The bench. And as a coach, to see everybody going crazy and hugging each other and laughing and pumping their fist and just really enjoying that moment, I watched it over and over and over again. And that's, as a coach, what really gets me excited. I tell the guys all the time, Christos can tell you, my days are over. I had my days. I played. It was fun, right? This is their turn now. So as a head coach and as an athletic director overseeing all the sports, I want to see guys smile and have fun and do it the right way, compete at the highest level. But again, it really is about having fun.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep talking about fun here for our weekly sports recap. There's a couple spring sports that had quite a lot of fun this week, Christos. We're going to start with baseball because I just think we have to. This is incredible. They lost to Brother Rice earlier in the season 5-4. On a walk-off single, I think it was. A pretty, discouraging way to end the game. They come back firing. They went 11-9 on Wednesday over Rice here at Mount Carmel. They improved to a 13-13 record. They're sitting at 500. But that win it speaks volumes for what this team has in store. And Timmy Harrigan went 4 for 4, 2 stolen bases. Great kid. Actually went to Lawrence his freshman year. They have an incredible baseball program, but he decided to come here and, look at him now. He's still playing great ball. So, as the AD, though, what have you seen out of this baseball program? Because in the fall we had football. They dominated. In the winter we had both wrestling and basketball. And now heading off into the spring, this baseball team has a very good chance to perform well in the playoffs.
I would not want to play Mount Carmel in the playoffs. I can tell you that. Guys, I'm not a big fan of saying, we're young. We have freshmen. We start a bunch of sophomores. But it's real. We start 6 sophomores, right? And they are taking their lumps here and there. We've got a talented team from top to bottom, guys on the field, guys that are off the field, guys in the dugout, guys on the field, back and forth. But starting 6 sophomores in the Chicago Catholic League, it's one of the best conferences in the country.
Yeah.
So we're starting 6 guys that some guys have probably played 70 to 80 more baseball games than them, if you really think about it. So just think of the experience that our young sophomores are giving up, and they're still hanging in there. I know 13-13 is not the norm for Mount Carmel baseball, but watching them play against a very good Brother Rice team the other day, the plays that they made, for instance, Joe Ireland charged a high hopper. He caught the ball barehanded and threw the guy out. He looked like he plays for the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, it was a professional play. Tim Harrigan was on fire at the plate. Great leadership from Colin Adams. At the leadoff spot, led off the game with the home run, right? Yeah. And they hit the ball on the nose. Brady Holland, who's a sophomore, second baseman, had a couple nice hits. Anthony Chavez is another sophomore. We've done all this without T.J. McQuillan. T.J. McQuillan is one of the top players in this class of 2026 class in the nation. He's a Louisville recruit. He hurt his shoulder early in the season and hasn't played in I guess, 40, 45 days. And, he swings a mean bat. If we get T.J. back on the field, hopefully soon, right, this team could be very dangerous in the playoffs. So I'm excited for them. And, again, beating Brother Rice is always fun.
Yeah, I remember last year, the Fenwick game. I was staying here. I think we were down like 4-1, bottom of the last inning, and then TJ hit that grand slam.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, all right, this guy's legit. Like,
Yeah.
I always heard about him, but I was like, okay, like, this is a baseball player right here.
I was watching him take cuts in the cage, and I mean, he's really big for a sophomore and strong. And I'm just like, man, when he gets a hold of the ball, it's going to go. I mean, just the bat speed alone is incredible. So the guys are doing great. I know 13-13 is not where they want to be in regards to a record, but getting TJ back and with the way they're playing now, hopefully they can just continue to move forward and make some noise in the playoffs. They deserve it.
All right, yeah. If we're talking about playoffs, the track team, they went out to Loyola yesterday for the CCL championship. I'm not sure exactly where they placed, but the program did very well last year, and they're looking to just continue the success this year as well. They've got a couple more meets, I guess, just for playoffs. This would be, non-CCL. This would be for state now.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to make a run as well. There's just a lot of teams here in this spring athletic season that they have a shot. I do also want to bring up lacrosse. They are 4-8, but, no excuses, obviously, right? But injuries and, when your head coach is scooting around the school, it's a little hard to rally and try to make a postseason run. But they have senior night tomorrow. That'll be live streamed here on CBN on YouTube. So if you're looking to support the team, please, they need it. I guess I'll say there's just a lot of injuries surrounding that program. I hope they all get better. I mean, I know a couple guys, they've got surgeries planned for June when we get out of school. Coach McGuire is trying to fix his leg. So yeah.
We've got more guys on crutches and scooters in the lacrosse program than hospital ward, which is tough. But I wish those guys all the best. I know they're working extremely hard. I pulled up early this morning. They're already almost done with their practice. At 7:15. So there's no lack of hard work or preparation from Coach McGuire and the lacrosse team. Proud of them. I got a chance to see rugby last night. Rugby won.
Yeah.
They beat Taft on senior night on kind of a miserable night, but it wasn't miserable on the field with our guys playing. They did great. And then you mentioned track and field. We have a new teacher here, Mr. James Wilson, Coach James Wilson, who is leading our track program. He's doing a phenomenal job. And he's only going to get better. A young man who actually went to Brother Rice himself. He was the Lawless Award winner at Brother Rice. He was a 15-time All-American. I believe he attended Monmouth College and was an accomplished runner himself. And I couldn't be more proud with the direction of our track program as well. They're doing a really good job.
Yeah, all these programs are heading in a great direction. We've got two sports left to talk about. Water polo. They beat St. Ignatius earlier in the season, 22-21. Double overtime, sudden death, right? Caleb McClure put it in the net. This past Saturday, they played Ignatius again, but they lost, so their season is over. If you want to read more about the team, go check it out at the MC Caravan. I wrote an article about the guys. And I just got to say, whenever I go and interview a team, I interviewed the basketball team as well, I usually just try to find a time when they're all together. So I went in, they were taking pictures, so I went up to the guys, the most charismatic and optimistic team at the school, because I get to talk to a lot of people through this newspaper and media. The way they talked about these games and the way they talked about each other as well, they were just so optimistic for next year. So I can't wait to see what's in store for water polo, honestly.
Yeah, it's really fun going out and watching them. As a new AD, I've never been to a water polo game, and I went out maybe a month or so ago to watch them swim at Shepherd, and I caught myself screaming in the pool at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was great. It is a really, really hard sport. It's not easy. I mean, I excuse me, I have a ton of respect for Coach Maroney and Coach McGovern. did a great job. But the players, they fought really hard, and we came up short by 1 goal that game. But new respect for water polo without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I have respect for all these spring programs because they're dealing with the end of the year is right in sight. It's right there. It's so close for them. But at the same time, they've got postseasons and playoffs coming up, and so just a lot of respect to all these programs. We're going to see if these teams can make some playoff runs. We're going to see if the baseball team can keep winning off that huge win against rival Brother Rice. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. We love talking with you. And we're excited. Your first year's AD is about to wrap up, so thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you guys. It was a pleasure, and keep up the great work.
All right. I guess there's nothing else to say, but good night, Chicago. Thank you.